everyone, and welcome back to the summit. My name is Melissa Bright, and I am here today joined by John Assaraf. I'm going to first begin by reading a little bit about him, and then we will get started. John Assaraf is a world-renowned mindset and success expert who has appeared numerous times on Larry King Live, Anderson Cooper, and The Ellen DeGeneres Show. He has built 5 multi-million-dollar companies, written 2 New York Times best-selling books, and appeared in 14 movies, including the blockbuster hit The Secret and Quest for Success with Richard Branson and the Dalai Lama. He is passionate about helping people tap into their brain's superpower so they shatter their limitations and achieve their full potential. John founded myneurogym.com, which is revolutionizing mindset coaching and mental fitness training. His powerful Innercise app helps people rewire their brain for unstoppable success. So without further ado, John, welcome. How are you doing today?
I am doing so well. It's so great to be with you.
Yes, likewise. So today's theme is setting yourself up for the best year, from dreams to reality. So I know you have studied and shared about the power of mindset. What would you say are some of the biggest mental barriers that keep people from achieving their goals, despite having all this information we have access to?
Sure. I mean, that's a great loaded question on the front
right?
end. And the first thing I'd love to start off with is to help people understand that every brain functionally works the same. It functionally has the same networks and circuits, and it functionally has very, very similar capabilities. Now, of course, we have personality traits and character traits that are different, but functionally, my fear center works the same as your fear center. My motivational circuit and yours and your stress circuit and mine, they functionally work the same. But what triggers them is different. So just like somebody might be petrified of snakes, and somebody might love snakes, and somebody might be thrilled with jumping out of an airplane, and somebody might feel like, oh my God, no way will I do that. The thing that is unique is our expression and meaning around things that triggers on or off certain circuits in the brain, which then, of course, causes us to behave in certain ways. And most of it we've learned from our parents, our teachers, our childhood, and then we just reinforce the same patterns over and over again. So when we look at, information, we know that when you're, watching or listening to a master class like this, everybody's like, wow, that's good. Or they say it's terrible. But if they say it's good, that information is really, really good. We know that the part of the brain that is receiving it and turning on the motivational circuit. Yes, I need to do that. I want to do that. I want to change. I understand how to do that. That part of the brain is actually not the part of the brain that is responsible for taking action and developing these new habits. So we gather information in a part of the brain called the hippocampus. And again, like I said, the brain is like an orchestra, right? There's different members of the orchestra, and each one does a different thing and plays a different instrument. So the hippocampus and an area of the brain called the amygdala, the emotional control center of the brain, when we hear things that we like and make sense and excite us, our brain is releasing these feel-good neurochemicals. It's like, yes, I want to do this. Yes, I should do this. This is my time. This is going to be my best year ever. And we get all excited. But then the habitual part of the brain, another part of the brain called the cerebellum, says, hold on there, tigress, hold on there, empress. These are your habits. Your habits are already set to think this and feel this and do this. Even though you want to do this, because this is what you want and this is better for you, you're conditioned to do this. And 95% of our lives is repetitive thoughts, emotions, and behaviors based on what is conditioned, based on the habitual ways we think and feel and take action. So we have information gathering here, but we have the other behavioral circuits here that are automatic. And now there's this battle that goes on between, the old conditioned programmed me and the new me that I want to be. And most people don't know how to release the old and create and reinforce the new. And so, perfect example.
Okay.
New Year's resolutions. Okay. I want to release the fat or the weight, and I want to get healthy and happy. I want to leave this relationship I'm not happy in. I want to find a new one. I want to get a career, change, or I want to start a business, or I want to write a book, or whatever I want.
Yep.
And that's all nice and dandy. But why do most people use willpower and motivation for a week or two or three? And they're like, oh my God, this is great. And they might have some challenges, but then they revert back to all of their old behaviors. It's not because they don't want the new.
Right.
It's just because there's a part of us that's like an 800-pound gorilla that we're trying to fight. And we don't know how to tame this gorilla, what I call another, Frankenstein's monster there versus the Einstein part of our brain. We don't know how to use the different parts of our brain because we've never been taught. Right. And that's why, as a behavioral neuroscience researcher, I've studied, why do people set goals that they really want to achieve? But then they don't take the action consistently. Like I want to know why. And there's answers now. We know more about the human brain now than we ever have. And now we have answers. And so now that we have answers, the question now becomes, am I really committed to the process of change? Am I really committed to the process of change? And usually we're only committed to the process of change when the pain of remaining the same, the pain of remaining the same is greater than the discomfort of change.
I can attest to that.
Right? And so we find ourselves involved in something that we call as habit hell. Right? We find ourselves involved in this habit hell. I want this, but this habit of mine just keeps recreating the same results over and over again. And it's like there's an internal battle that most people have, and they don't know how to reconcile it.
Right.
And that's where my work comes in. That's where my #1 Amazon bestseller, Inner Size book comes in, and our app comes in. We can talk more about that later.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, thank you so much for drawing that picture first. Now, I know that you had a powerful shift in your early life, in your early years. Can you share that defining moment and how it changed your approach to achieving success?
Sure. I've had two defining moments almost at the same time. One was health related, which I don't talk about often, but I'm more than willing to. But the other was when I'm between the age of 13 and 17, 18, I just did a lot of immoral, nasty, illegal things, drugs, break-in entries, selling drugs, lying, stealing, cheating, because I thought that's the way I'm going to do well, because I failed English in grade 7, failed math, left high school at grade 11, was voted most likely to fail in life. And that all stemmed from low self-worth and self-esteem when my parents moved from Israel, where I was born, to Montreal, where they spoke English and French. And I just went into grade 1. And I quickly fell behind by 2 years because I didn't understand what they were saying. And my parents couldn't speak the language. And my brother and sister were learning the language. And the teachers were so busy. There's 55, 60 immigrant kids in the classes that I was in. So nobody had time to teach me. So I would sit there and just look at might have been hieroglyphics or Chinese for that matter, letters and numbers in a different language. So I fell 2 years behind very, very quickly at a very young age. So I just felt I wasn't smart enough or good enough. So I hung out with all the other kids that felt like they weren't smart enough or good enough, and we just got into trouble. So that was kind of like the early years. And then by the time I was, 17, 18, 19, the repercussions were much more serious. Jail, detention centers, and maybe possibly dying. And I know that to be true because one of the guys in my little gang, went to jail. Another one died. And so it was real. And fortunately, my brother and I have been really good friends for many, many, many years. He's 71. I'm 63. And when I was younger, he said, "Hey, Johnny, you're going down the wrong path. You're going to end up in dead or in jail." And he said, "I have this client of mine. He was a tennis instructor. He still is. He used to play the pro circuit. And he met this man that he taught tennis to, who this guy was a real estate broker and a real estate developer. And he asked me if I would be willing to at least meet this guy for lunch. He might be able to help me and maybe he could offer me a job." Yeah. And at the time, I was working in a shipping department, making $1.65 an hour, hating my life, living at my parents' home, no car. And it's like, I hated my life. So anyway, I took the train to meet my brother. He lived in Toronto. I was in Montreal. It was about, a 5-hour train ride. My brother picks me up. We go to lunch with this gentleman. And he starts asking me what do I want to achieve? What goals and dreams do I have? And at the time I said, I'd like to get a better job and make more money. I'd love to buy a car. I'd love to move out of my parents' house and have my own apartment. I was 19 at the time. Yeah. And he said, "Well, that's all great, but what else would you like to have?" I was like, "Nothing. That's it. I just want those three things." Right. He goes, "Do me a favor." And I said, "Well, sure." His name was Mr. Alan Brown. And he said, "Would you answer the questions, on this document?" And so he gives me this document, and it was a goal-setting guide. Not goal-achieving guide, but goal-setting guide. And the first question was, and remember, I was 19 at the time. The first question was, at what age do you want to retire? What? I'm 19. I want a job. Retire. My father was a cab driver. He couldn't retire. My mother worked as a seamstress. She couldn't retire. Nobody in our family was retired. Dead, yes, but not retired. The second question was, how much net worth would you like to have upon retirement? And I looked at the paper, and I looked at him. I looked at the paper. I looked at him. I said, "Excuse me, what does net worth mean?" I don't know what net worth was. And he explained to me what net worth was. And then what kind of home would you like? What kind of car would you like? Where would you like to travel? That was easy. Mercedes-Benz, 4-bedroom house, travel all over the world, first class, Italian clothes. It said, "Who do you want to help?" I said, "Myself." I was so ignorant, right? I was so ignorant, 19, ignorant. Who do you want to help? Me. I want to help me, charity, me. So I wrote down all these answers, and he looked at it, he said, "Okay, so you want to travel the world? Good. You want to make a lot of money? Good. You want to, so he just looked at this stuff that I just was dreaming about. Yeah. And he leaned in. I remember this like it was yesterday. This is, holy mackerel, wow, 44 years ago. 44 years ago. He leans in and he says, "Son, are you interested in achieving these things, or are you committed to achieving these things that you wrote out of your imagination?" I'm scratching my head. I'm thinking, he just asked me, am I interested or am I committed? And I was thinking, well, what's the difference? So I asked him, I said, "Excuse me, Mr. Brown, what's the difference?" And again, he leans in and he says, "When you're interested in achieving something, you do what's convenient and easy." He says, "You allow your present circumstances to control your thinking. You allow your present circumstance to control your feeling. You allow your present circumstance to control what you do. And then you just recreate more of the same." He says, "But when somebody is committed to a different reality, a different result, a different outcome, they upgrade their identity. They upgrade their belief and their self-esteem and self-worth. They upgrade the skills required to achieve the new as they release the old." Yeah. And it says, "They do everything in their power to create the transition from this to that, which means they have to release, let go of the old to make room for the new. And so he explains this to me. And I mean, this was logical, right? This made sense to me, even though I was pretty ignorant. I go, all right, well, in that case, sir, yeah, I'm committed. And he looked at me and he smiled and he reached out his hand. He says, in that case, son, I will be your mentor. I says, wow, thank you, sir. What's a mentor? And that was the beginning of me understanding a little bit about the brain. First, like, let go of this, start this, create this belief and identity and behavior. And then I moved from Montreal to Toronto. He offered me a job with two problems. One, I had to go back to school to get my real estate license. I hated school, but he helped me. Number two, he says, you're going to be on commission only. I go, commission only? At least I'm making $1.65 here.
Right.
Let go of the fear, because there's more than enough. You just need to learn the skill to make more money. And I was scared out of my mind. From $1.65, at least I made like $15 a day.
Right.
And it may not sound like a lot today, but $75 a week back in 1980 was a lot for me, living in my parents' house. And then he taught me the skills to sell, to be on commission only. And it was rough for 30 days. It was rough for 60 days. It was rough for 90 days. But then I made a sale and I made $1,500 after like 100 days. So even if I would have been making $75 a week, $300 every 2 weeks, $600 a month, I made all of that money on the third or fourth month. And then I made more and more and more. I was like, oh my God, I died and went to heaven, because now I started to believe in me because I did the work. That was the beginning of me thinking for the first time in my life, my young adult life, maybe I'm not dumb. Maybe I am worth it. Maybe I can do this because I'm the one who did the work.
Right.
And he had me, doing things that I was like, what the heck is this? He would have me like read affirmations. And I'd sit there and go, I'm so happy and grateful for the fact that blah, 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 blah. I'm doing this, I'm making this, I'm enjoying this. And there's a part of my brain that was going like, well,
right.
You're not earning this. You don't look like that. You don't feel like that. You don't have that money.
Right.
But the more I visualized it, which I learned how to do, the more I learned how to manage my emotions and get excited when I really wasn't excited, like an actor.
Yeah.
I started to think differently and feel differently. And as I upgraded my behaviors, right, because he held me accountable to doing certain things every day, I started walk a little bit differently. I started to hey, maybe I can do this. Maybe I can. Maybe he's right. And then it just perpetuated where I got some small little glimpses of really good results that I did. Then I was like, well, it's once you feel good about something, well, can I feel better? Can I have more? And that was really the beginning of my transformation. And then I was like, what's happening to me? How am I changing so much and getting results? And then over 6 months, I made $30,000, $1,500 on the fourth month, but then I made $10,000 and then $20,000 because of all the work that I did in the first 100 days started coming to fruition. I was like, $30,000 in 6 months. My father made $25,000 as a cab driver in a whole year. And then I kept doing this, and I made $151,000 my first full year. I was 20.
Yeah.
Now that's the money part, but then it transferred over into self-confidence and certainty and walking a little taller and feeling a little bit more proud and starting to believe maybe I'm not a dumb jock.
Right.
Oh, maybe I am smarter than I give myself credit for. Maybe, I can achieve something that I'm proud of in my life.
Yeah.
Slowly but surely, I did that. And then I took some of the money that I made a couple of years later. I did that for like 2 years. Went and traveled around the world by myself. I'd saved $72,000 and spent every penny of it, plus a little bit more. Then came back in debt and just started working again and started making the money. Started, healthy and happy. And then by applying what I learned from him and one other mentor after him, I started my own real estate company because that's what I was taught.
Yeah.
And I ended up with 85 offices and 1,200 salespeople doing $4.5 billion a year in sales for 10 years. That was the beginning. From 19 to 26, I was learning and earning. 26 to 36, I built my first company, and it became one of the top REMAX regions in the world. Only because I learned from other people, how to change and how to upgrade my skills and how to take action, which I learned how to do.
Yeah. Oh my goodness. That is an incredible story. And I'm sure that you are so grateful for your first mentor. I mean, anybody would want one of those, people at the age of 19 being like, oh man, where was he when I was 19? I mean, that's just incredible.
Yeah, and the Chinese have a great proverb, and they say the best time to have planted a tree was 30 years ago. The very next best time is right now.
Amen to that.
Right?
I know we work with people, and they always say, oh, if I wish I, had this back then. You make the good point. Now is the time. We can't go back then, but you do have right now.
Yeah, you have right now to make the shift, to believe in yourself, to learn how to use this. I call it, this $100 billion brain that almost none of us ever got the user's manual for.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So you talked a little bit in your story there. You were struggling yourself with self-doubt, limiting beliefs, thinking you weren't smart enough. So you probably just shared a little bit about this, but how are you able to overcome these limiting beliefs? And what advice would you give somebody that's feeling stuck right now, that's watching this?
Yeah. So can I just divert the question for just a second so we answer the whole scenario?
Yeah.
There's a couple of pieces I want to make sure that we cover. And I always ask, my students around the world or people that I talk to around the world, was there ever a baby ever born since the beginning of time with any beliefs about herself or himself?
Nope.
Was there ever a baby born with any self-image, self-worth, self-esteem as a baby? What about an identity? Character traits, yes, but no beliefs, no self-worth, self-esteem, deserving or not deserving. Was any baby born with any fear? No. So no beliefs, no self-image or self-worth or self-confidence, no fear. And was any baby ever born with any skill to ride a bike, to eat, to get dressed, to tie their shoes, to read a book? No, and no. So let's start with that framework of we were born a clean slate.
Okay.
And then through being in the environment of wherever we grew up, whether, parents, one parent, two parents, siblings, babysitters, grandparents, orphan, it doesn't matter. We had this environment, and that environment taught us. And then we started to, our brain started firing these cells, and those cells connected, and the brain cells that fired together, wired together. That's called conditioning. So we learned what to believe. We learned what to be afraid of. We learned values. We learned traditions. We learned whether I'm good enough or smart enough, based on comparison, based on meanings, based on what we were told, or based on what we told ourselves. We just created these patterns in our brain. So that's kind of like part one of the equation. So first and foremost, for the most part, you're not at fault for any of the challenging things. So then the next part of the equation is what holds us women or men back? Well, what I believe to be true that may not be true, but feels true. what I'm afraid of that may or may not help me. What I think about myself that's probably not true, but I've developed this identity and this self-image that ties together with my self-worth and self-esteem, whether I deserve to have this or not have this, or, am I ever going to be able to break free from this glass ceiling because I'm a man or a woman or this ethnicity group or this color or this part of the world? So there's all of these limitations that are automated. It's called automaticity. And most of us don't know that those are in some cases, the hidden silent barriers that keep creating the expectation and the behavior to match the limitations of our beliefs and self-image and self-worth and, let's say, financial set point or fat set point or relationship set point, which have all been automated over 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, 80, 90 years. I have students from 18 to 92 right now. And it's always the same. The names and faces change, but the story stays the same. So that's kind of like part one. So then part two or part three comes in. Well, what do we know about the human brain? Well, let's say that everybody who's listening or watching right now said, I want to learn a foreign language. Right? So you might have the motivation to do it. You might have your reasons why. If it's because you're going to go to that country, you're going to have some motivation. If it's because you've just met somebody and she or he speaks that language, you have a lot more motivation to communicate, because with that motivation maybe comes a little love and lust and sex and goodness and companionship. And it's like, oh my God, it's intoxicating. So I'm willing to do the work to learn that. Might have our own motivation. So what would be the process by which I would learn a new language? So I might go to Duolingo, right, and learn, the words, the sentences, the incantations, the tonality, the accents, and all that stuff. I might practice, online or offline. I might, find a friend who speaks the language and practice. So it's in the practice that I create and reinforce new patterns. Now, how many people have ever said, I'm going to learn Chinese, Japanese, Spanish, Mongolian, it doesn't matter, any language, and they learn it in the first 3 hours. They can converse, as well as anybody that was born in that language. Nobody.
Right.
So it's through spaced repetition that we activate, we learn, and we reinforce new patterns. So if you have a certain belief about yourself or about what's possible, and you've reinforced that for 50 years, do you really think that a new belief, a new language, right, you're going to get that one this weekend? No. Do you think that a habit that you've had for 20, 30, 40 years is going away tomorrow just because you went to a course or read a book or watched this awesome interview? But the beginning of that spark, those neurons, brain cells firing and then wiring with oh yeah, this is good. And then coming back tomorrow and the next day and the next day and repeating it. Practice is what creates permanent or soft wired patterns. Now, the way that our brains work is this. Our brain is lazy. Our brain is lazy. So there's a hierarchy of this computational power. And the human brain is lazy. Initially, if you think about a baby, I had a gal that I was interviewing was over here yesterday with her 7-month-old. And this 7-month-old was like trying to move out all over the place, grab this, grab that, put this in his mouth, look at this, bite this, go over here, go over here. And she was like, and I told her it was okay to bring the baby. He was using all this energy to learn. What is this? What is that? What's that? Can I stand? Can I? And he was using all that. And that's like, well, he's building these new neurons. So building new patterns, a new belief, a new self-image, a new habit requires enormous amounts of energy. Now, our brain doesn't want to use up energy. It wants to activate and reinforce patterns.
Yeah.
So we resist the change, not because we don't want the change, it's because we don't understand how to use our brain in a way where we say, instead of expecting the change in 1 hour, what if I take 10 minutes a day over 10 days and do a little bit each day? And then I add a little bit of challenge for the next 10 days and add a little bit more the next 10 days. And I start to build the pattern that's easy and then reinforce the pattern. So if you think about this, what is a belief in the brain?
A thought pattern.
It's a pattern. It's a neural pattern that's been reinforced. It's cells that connect it, period.
Yep.
Well, if we want a new belief, would you be willing to invest 5 or 10 minutes a day to, for example, innercise with some new empowering constructive beliefs that will help you have self-confidence and the unstoppable, unshakable self-confidence and certainty to achieve what you want? Would you be willing to invest, the next 100 days, 10 minutes a day, 15 minutes a day to upgrade, for lack of a better term, your brain's belief software, your self-image software, your confidence and certainty software that'll then make the thing that you want to achieve a lot easier? What about your habits? And then if you develop new habits, which is a combination of thoughts, emotions, and behaviors, would you be willing to slowly and deliberately develop new, empowering, what I call our constructive, build you up habits versus destructive, tear you down habits? And if the answer is yes, then just be willing to do what you would do if you wanted to exercise your bicep muscle, your shoulder muscle, your tummy, or your tush. You'd want to do a little bit of exercise consistently and develop that habit. And then you would release the endorphins and you'd release, the dopamine, and you release all the feel-good neurochemicals. If you did too much, you don't want to do it anymore. If you do too little, you're not going to get the benefit. But just enough is like, okay, hey, I feel it's good. So we want just enough challenge, and we want just enough autonomy, and we want the feel-good side of it. And a little bit of discomfort's okay, but too much is like, I'm out of here. Yep. So there's this really nice, balancing act to activate and reinforce new patterns. So I could, activate a part of my brain called the occipital lobe, or the visual center of the brain, and I could imagine, being healthier. I can imagine making more money. I can imagine a new relationship. I can imagine a raise. I can imagine a promotion at work. I can imagine being happier with my husband or wife. Now, why would that even matter? Well, because when we activate that part of our brain, it sends signals to other parts of our brain. It's like when you say, turn left here, right? Your foot usually goes on the brake, and then you turn the wheel and then you put your foot back on the gas to make the turn, left or right. So just because you thought turn, it doesn't stop there. It activates other centers in the brain. So when you think more money, healthier, happier, weight release, promotion, it actually connects to other parts of the brain that start the process of, well, how can I release the fat and keep it off? How can I get a promotion? What do I need to learn? What do I need to stop? What do I need to start? So these, what I call, are the mechanics of the brain. When we focus on change and the mechanics of change in a path that is easier for us, with effort, but easier, then our brain works for us. But when we don't know what to do, that would be the equivalent of somebody who hasn't exercised for, 2 or 3 or 4 years, that maybe 20, 30, 40 pounds overweight, saying, well, I'm going to run a marathon today. It's like, what? Right. You're going to hurt yourself. You're not going to want to do it. Yeah. So there is a process for change, and we can use self-talk, as a way to do it, or, affirming things to ourselves, learning how to be aware of our self-talk. We have to learn that we are not our emotions. We have emotions. We have to understand that we're not our behaviors, but we have habitual behaviors. all of which create results. So if you don't like the results you have, or you like them, but you want different results, why not change the cause of the behavior that creates the results?
Mm.
So now we're entering the domain of the subconscious mind, right? And we're talking about beliefs and emotions and habits. And so let's create empowering beliefs. Let's learn how to manage emotions better. Let's learn how to make the behavioral changes that we want to make consistent, because we do them enough over 30, 60, 90, 180 days that becomes the new norm.
Mm.
So first we build empowering habits, then the empowering habits build us. And so there's a process for that. That's my body of work for really 44 years is once I started to change, and I did it in health and wealth and relationships and career and business, I started teaching it to people in the world. And I've had literally millions of students that I've taught and hundreds of thousands of success stories in releasing weight and keeping it off, in getting to a healthy, amazing relationship with yourself and with others, in building businesses, making more money, advancing your career. Because there's like a blueprint or a recipe that I've been teaching my students because I wanted the recipe for me.
Yeah. Mm. Oh my goodness. Well, thank you for breaking that down into the bigger picture, and so people could see what's happening. In terms of the limiting beliefs, this was hands down the number one thing that has gotten me the most results that I've wanted for my life, was addressing these limiting beliefs. And now, just like you, when you could figure it out for yourself, you just want to scream it from the rooftops to be able to help everybody else. You have built, as I said in, your bio, many, many successful companies. You've written best-selling books. And I know some people are probably wondering, what are some of John's daily habits or mindset practices that you have found crucial for maintaining focus, motivation, so on and so forth?
First and foremost, I have taken many, many, many days to determine for me what would make my life, just mine, a masterpiece.
Mm.
What would my health be like? Wealth, relationships, career, business, fun, experiences, contribution to the world. What would make my life a masterpiece? And I've written it all down. So I have something that, it's one of my.
Oh, wow.
I have my exceptional life blueprint. Living life on my own terms is amazing. And I've taken literally years and years and years and years to create.
Awesome.
Like, for example, I have a picture of this guy in his 70s who's in phenomenal shape. Well, I'm not going to do it now, but if I lifted my shirt up, I have a 6 to 8 pack at 63. And why? Because I used to be 243 pounds and overweight and fat and unhealthy. And I said, this isn't a masterpiece. Having the physical body that I want. Like, I'm not saying everybody should get a 6-pack, but I just want to be healthy as I got older. So I've taken the time to say, what does a masterpiece for my life mean to me? I've written it down. Then I go, what do I value most in my life? In order. And it's my relationship to God. And that to me is spiritual, not religious. Okay. My emotional, mental, and physical health. My family, and health is above family because I can't take care of them if I'm not healthy. So it's God, my health in different areas, spiritual, emotional, mental, physical, financial. That's my SEMP model. Family and true friends. Next is contribution to the world, to mankind and womankind. And fourth is have amazing fun and experiences. So I've written my values, and then I have, like, what do I need to believe in order to live these values? What skills do I need? What habits do I need? And I've taken time to think about those, which has then led to, well, could I have some success rules or principles or rituals? And the answer is, well, of course. And so if I was to look at, okay, my daily, okay, all right,
Oh,
so this
wow.
is my daily AM, PM rituals, I have it written down. So when I woke up this morning, I start off with opening my eyes and just being grateful that I woke up.
Mm.
People didn't wake up this morning.
Yeah.
I put my feet on the ground. I do about a minute or so of what am I grateful for as I woke up. Put my feet on the ground. Oh my God, I can walk. So I start off with gratitude. And then I have my glass of water with minerals in it. And then I do my inner sizes, which I have from my app, to train my brain for health and wealth, relationship, career, and business, self-confidence and certainty, and empowering beliefs and perspectives. And then I do a little meditation just to quiet my mind and connect to the source of all supply. And then I exercise. So today I rode my e-bike to the gym 17 minutes away. I did a 30-minute workout, got back on my e-bike, came home. Then I have my meeting with my executive assistant at 8:30 every day till 9 o'clock. Then I had another meeting. And my day is planned, for high impact activities that all line up with my highest values for the day, the week, the month. So I have these rituals that start off with gratitude and inner sizing to take care of this $100 billion gift I received by our creator. And so I want to tune it well, like you upgrade your computer, your software, you take care of your car somewhat, or I want to take care of my brain and my health. This is my vehicle.
Yeah.
To be able to do the contribution, have the fun and the experiences, and to be a great husband and father and contributor to other humans on planet Earth. While I love to ski and skydive and do the things that excite me and make me feel great and travel the world, I can, do all of it as good as a 20-year-old now. So I've developed the daily rituals and habits to upgrade my knowledge and skills, to read, to share, to give, to learn, to live. I want to live. I don't want to exist. So I've developed my rituals. And I've taken the time to say, if I did these things, if I thought these things, if I believed these things, if I did these things, would they lead me on the path to the things that I want for my health and wealth and family and relationships and career and business? Right? So I have these habits and behaviors. Every Wednesday night, I meet for dinner with just my younger son, who's 28. That's father and son time. I usually see him one other time a week because he lives here and he comes over for dinner. Every Monday night at 5 o'clock, I meet with my other son who lives in another state. 2 nights a week is just time with my wife. Morning time, I bring my wife lemon water or celery juice when she wakes up, and then she has rituals to take care of me. She makes me this beautiful love bowl 5 days a week. So for every area of my life, I have thought about what would make the result predictable versus possible.
Oh, yeah.
And here's why. I don't want to end up at the end of my life, whenever that is, sad. I don't want to end up at the end of my life going, why didn't I do what I could have done when I could have done it? I refuse to live a life of regret. So I live a life that's more disciplined than most. But the discipline inspires me because I'm achieving what I want to achieve. Now, here's what most people never think about. You're already 100% disciplined to your current habits.
Yep.
So I've just deliberately created the habits that will give me the best chance. Now, listen, I might die in a minute. I might end up with an incurable disease. I got that. But up until that point, I'm deliberate in what I can control and do. And do I get it perfect all the time? No, of course not. Everything always work out? No. Life has a way of throwing you these flipping curveballs.
You ain't kidding.
When you're, and so, but then it's a matter of what do I do about what's happening? And how is it serving me versus being done to me?
Yes.
So how is this for me versus to me? So, but these are mental frames that I have learned from mentors and teachers and books. And so I've philosophies and I've got these frameworks that allow me to have a perspective where I can respond better versus react automatically. But again, I've been doing this for 44 years of practice and training, and I still do it every day.
Yeah.
And by the way, it doesn't matter where I am in the world. My routine is the same in the morning and at night. In between, we have flexibility. But my opening and my closing rituals are sacred.
That's so powerful. It's so powerful to show people that so desperately want to start doing this and seeing the results that they can get, and you shared your story early on to say, I had these limiting beliefs, these doubts. I didn't believe this about myself, and to show where you are now. And so much of it is just this disciplined habits that you've stuck to and you've gotten the results. And then you reminded people, hey, you're disciplined right now. It's just not to probably the habits that you want.
To achieve the goal you want.
Exactly.
Right? And the other thing just to keep in mind is some people might look at my discipline. Look, he's got it written down. He's got it. You don't start off, with a black belt.
Right.
You start off with a white belt and then you learn and then you get to the next belt. You get to the next belt. You don't start off speaking a language. You start off with letters, then little words, then little sentences. So it's okay to be a clumsy beginner. And we all just have to start with where we are. Because here's what happens. If you can make a little bit of progress consistently, you'll make a lot more progress consistently, and you'll make a little bit more progress, and then you might have some setbacks, but you'll know what it feels like to make progress. And here's the real key, is just look for ways to make progress, a little bit of progress every day. You're not going to get it perfect. You're not going to learn a magic trick, a phenomenal illusionist magic trick or a yo-yo trick or playing Sudoku or a crossword puzzle or chess or checkers or knitting like today.
Right.
But you can learn something today. You can do something today. And it's the building blocks that I think we have forgotten because we live in this fast mindset. Give me food fast. Give me this fast. Give me that fast.
Yeah.
And sometimes we have to slow down to pick up speed.
If that's not one of the best pieces of advice that I've heard previously to this, and I was like, oh my, I get to slow down? What? This is the greatest news I've ever heard.
Yeah, slow down. Just stop. What am I thinking? That's not going to get me where I want to go.
Yeah.
Why am I feeling afraid? Why am I feeling less than? What do I believe about myself that is holding me back? Am I willing to change? Am I willing to let this go now? And if I'm willing to change, if I'm willing to shift, then why don't we take a slow path to consistent, predictable change versus sporadic, radical, inconsistent behaviors and change. Now, some people say, well, I don't know where to start. Okay, well, that's okay. But first, before you start, are you interested or are you committed to the process?
Yes.
because you can find out where to start in less than 30 seconds just by going to ChatGPT and saying, here's my situation. I want you to act as an expert in, name the result. Can you create a 7-day plan for me, starting with maybe 3 minutes today? Or anything in your life. We now have access to all of the intelligence in the universe that we've ever had at our fingertips for free. So it doesn't matter that you don't know how. It doesn't matter that you don't know how. And you don't need to know how until you make a commitment that you're going to learn how and then do it. So don't put the cart before the horse.
Good point. Good point.
Slow down. Slow down so that you can think through what's step 1, what's step 2, what's step 3. And if you do those, then you'll know 4, 5, and 6, and you're probably going to make some mistakes. You'll be a clumsy beginner. That's okay. And then you just get on the process.
John, this conversation has been so wonderful. You've given us some practical steps, some things to definitely think about, whether we're interested or we're committed. I think the people here that are watching are definitely committed. They're taking the time to learn. So the very last thing I want to ask you is, where can people find out more about you and all the awesome things that you are doing?
Obviously, I have some New York Times best-selling books. If they want to learn how to set and achieve goals, they can pick up my book called Having It All. If they have a business, I have a New York Times best-selling book called The Answer that shows people how to build their business. If they want to really master their mindset based on the latest brain research in layman's terms, like I've shared today, pick up my book, Inner Size. And then another phenomenal way is get my Inner Size app. There's over 600 mindset training inner sizes to help you become the person you are meant to become. And then, of course, I'm on social media, and they can see me on Instagram or YouTube or LinkedIn or all the social media. And then my johnassaraf.com website as well. So there's lots of stuff. I write a lot. There's a lot of great writing. So depending on if you like to watch, go to YouTube. You like to read, pick up one of the books. When you want a little dose of me every day, hop onto my social media channels.
Perfect. Perfect. John, thank you so much. This was such a wonderful conversation. It's greatly appreciated.
Thank you. It's been my joy, and I appreciate being on with you.
Absolutely.